Good morning, everybody. Muy buenos días a todos.
Perfect. All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the last day of our NDSS Virtual Adult Summit. We're so happy that you have joined us so far. I wanted to, before I don't want to take up too much time, I wanted to introduce the panelists for today on the session. Listen, include, respect, international on the inclusive participation of people with intellectual disabilities in the running and work of organizations. We have Luis Gabriel Villarreal, who's self-advocate and employee at AS Down Columbia. Ailish Hardy, a self-advocacy coordinator at Inclusion International, and Nathan Rowe, program manager at Down Syndrome International. This session will be recorded for later viewing. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box at the bottom, and our panelists will get to those at the end of this session. But I'll put it over to you. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Ailish, as Rachel said, and we, as Rachel said, are talking about our work, Listen, Include, Respect, the International Guidelines for Inclusive Participation. My name is Ailish. I work for Inclusion International, and I'm the self-advocacy coordinator at Inclusion International.
Yeah, my name is Nathan. I'm the program manager at Down Syndrome International, and I am based in the UK.
And hi, everyone. Buenos días. And my name is I'm Luis Gabriel Villarreal Peralta. I work as a self-advocate member for Inclusion International and as Down Colombia. And I also a member from Empower Us team. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Luis. Luis, did you want to introduce Inclusion International?
Well, yes. Now, right now, let's get this started. Now, I'm gonna explain you what Inclusion International is. So, Inclusion International is the international network of people with intellectual disabilities and their families and support people. What we do as an entire international work is to advocate for the human rights of people with intellectual disabilities around the world, and we had over 200 member organizations in every part of the world worldwide. Now, Nathan, your turn.
Thanks, Luis. So Down Syndrome International, we are a UK-based international disabled people's organisation. So similarly, an international network of people with Down syndrome, families, and organisations that represent them. We are committed to improving quality of life for people with Down syndrome, promoting their right to be included on a full and equal basis with others. And we have members in over 130 countries worldwide. And there's a link to our website on the slide, and there was one to Inclusion International too, if you want to have a look afterwards.
So we're going to show you a very short video to introduce the subject. This was used to launch this work on World Down Syndrome Day at the online World Down Syndrome Day virtual conference that Down Syndrome International organised. So I'll play the video now, which will help to explain a little bit more about the Listen, Include, Respect work.
As self-advocate, I've been involved with a lot of work on inclusion. I go to many different meetings and conferences. It is great that I am able to use my experience and skills to work on making changes happen. But I'm still faced with challenges when I want to take part.
When we take part in meetings with other organisations, we very rarely get the information in the way we need. People don't realise about the support or time we need to understand and take part. There are no international guidelines on how to include us.
The Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities guarantees that people with intellectual disabilities can participate in all parts of their community. That means the right to accessible information and processes. There are many organizations and groups around the world doing good work on inclusive participation, accessible information, running inclusive events, supporting inclusive participation in their governance, and role modeling good support. But we need a clear set of global guidelines for organizations, governments, and the UN system. Inclusion International and Down Syndrome International, working with our global networks over the next year, will collect existing practices and develop guidelines which organizations and governments can endorse and use.
Down Syndrome International and Inclusion International will work together and with our networks to collect this good work into guidelines for our members and for the other organisations that we work with. The guidelines will cover how to include self-advocates in our work in inclusion and to make sure that everyone can participate.
The guidelines will help organisations understand to give us the accommodation, support and time we need to take part so we can really have our voices heard. These guidelines will teach you how to listen to us and respect us and include us. Inclusion International and Down Syndrome International will be launching this work soon, so follow us on social media for updates.
So I hope that gave a bit more detail about what we're going to be talking about. Luis, I think you're going to talk us a bit more through some of the detail.
Yes, Eilish, of course. Well, what we're gonna talk about is the question we're gonna talk about is what is inclusive participation? Inclusive participation is about a person with an intellectual disability being included and taking part in an organization's work. Next slide, please. Inclusive participation is when a person with an intellectual disability gets information in a way that they can understand. In a way that they understand. They can share they can share ideas, experiences, or knowledge alongside everyone else. It can share their ideas, experience, and knowledge alongside everyone else, and is given the time, support, and accommodations they need to take part. To take part of. Next slide, please. So, what is happening right now? So many self-advocate leaders are more and more involved with work that affect us as a community and society members. We are part of international advocacy work. We work with several organizations worldwide. We are working with national, regional, and international organizations, and this includes several organizations like the UN agencies. Next slide, please. But despite all of this, organizations and governments do not always understand the accommodations, support, and time that self-advocates need to participate. There is some good work happening, but it's not consistent all around the world. There are no internationally recognized standards or guidelines, and the accommodations people with an intellectual disability need to participate. Next slide, please. So what does the Convention of Rights with People with Disabilities say? The CRPD said is about the human rights of people with disabilities. General Comment 7 of the CRPD says that states must involve people with intellectual disabilities, with several disabilities, and their representative organizations in checking the progress of the CRPD. Countries must make sure information and processes are accessible so that everyone can participate, including people with an intellectual disability. We know that this is not happening for us. Next slide, please. So, what do we need? Organizations and governments know that they need to do that. Organizations and governments know that they need to do more to include people with an intellectual disability in the work that they do. At an international level, there are inclusion and accessibility standards for other disability groups. Sign language, build, such as sign language, building accessibility, etc. But there are no internationally recognized and agreed guidelines for people with an intellectual disability. Next slide, please. There is a need for agreed guidelines for the inclusion, support, and participation of people with intellectual disabilities. Next slide, please. So, what are the guidelines we're talking about? The listen, include, and so we're gonna talk about the listen, include, respect initiative. Listen, include, respect is an Inclusion International and Down Syndrome International's work to create international guidelines on inclusive participation worldwide. The guidelines are an agreed way of doing something. They are created by people who are experts in a subject and who understand the needs of the people who will use the guidelines. The guidelines will explain how organizations should include and support people with intellectual disabilities to make sure everyone can participate in their work. Next slide, please. So we got now we had to. So now it's our turn. So now right now we're gonna talk. I'm gonna have a very special interview with Adish about my own personal experience about inclusion.
Thanks, Louise. So we're going to talk about why this is important from a self-advocate's point of view. And obviously, Louise Gabriel, as you mentioned, self-advocates are more and more involved in the work of in advocacy work, international advocacy work. And I know that you've been part of advocacy events at the UN and at a regional level in Latin America. But just to start off with, Louise, why is being included in an organization's work important to you?
It's important to have our voice. It's important because they take our voice in mind. They have our opinions in mind because some people don't understand the experience, the lives that we do. Many people many people don't understand the situation of people with disability gets through. We don't understand the information. We don't get any period, and if there's international meetings, we don't have several appreciated help like translation. So why is it being included in an organization? So being included in the organization's work is very important for all of us, and especially for me, because I can express myself, I can help with other people, I can agree, I can show what happened to other people with disabilities is going with other people with disabilities is going through, and I can help them. How can we improve it? Because it takes my voice and my opinions, my ideas, and everyone's ideas. We have our voice, we have ideas, we want to share a problem, and we want to help shape a better society.
Absolutely. So yeah, like you say, you have a voice, and it's important that you have that voice heard. And why is taking part alongside everyone else important?
Because it's important, because it makes me feel like I am a real member of the society. I'm a real citizen in this world. So it's important to be taking part in any organization, in any activity, in any part, alongside everybody else, because it makes me feel like a real person. It makes me feel like a real society member. It's like a real world citizen, because I have an idea and I have some very body. I have ideas, I have support, I had something to improve to the world. And also, if we don't have that, we want 2 steps forward and 3 steps back.
Fantastic, Louise. Yeah, like you say, people with disabilities have to be included if we want to step forward in the world. So maybe, Louise, you could tell us about a time that you haven't been included, when you have not been included. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened and how did it feel to not be included?
Yeah, sometimes I think is sometimes in some meetings about, yeah, sometimes we have a class they're talking about work in we as a group we have a meeting with several special program inclusive education program in Rosario, in the Universidad de Rosario, in OAT program, and from in Transiciones Crecer. We have once we have a class with another group of students, university students, and we have a group of people. We have students from medicine students and university. They are new ones, and so in order to have more semester that we do, and they will understand. They have a presentation. They have no idea about the program of the inclusion of people with disability. They were talking about very fast or slow, or they take other opinions, and we feel a little uncomfortable about it. And if we feel a little uncomfortable, and also because sometimes don't understand the words and they don't have the words the experience and anyone, and so it's so the doctora Ita Restrepo pay attention, took notes about it, and they talked about the group, and they understand that we have now. It was very rude from their part. It was very nasty. It was very not the right. It wasn't right about it, because they not use the support we needed. They didn't use the importance. They didn't have the way how to talk to us in a very more open way, in the most appropriate way. And also
sorry.
can be times when we haven't included, especially in education, because they have a very effective, they had very complex questions, they have complex words, few images, and that feels uncomfortable, because we need to understand, in order to get a real education, why don't use these words and not using images so they can improve the information.
So you think images are an important part of understanding, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit more on the next question. But what about a time when you have felt included, Louise? Could you tell us about a time when you have been included, and what happened, and how being included and being able to take part made you feel?
Yeah, I've been luckily for us, because with the help of my mother and my family, they taught me how to be included, they had to understand the words, and also with the help of with several programs aside OAT and RECA and Compensar, those programs have helped me understand things. They help me express why I don't understand, express why I do understand, and how can I improve it. In those programs, one of the programs I feel included is the use into my program in the office, and especially in my training, in my home workshop programs, inclusion for training sessions. I feel included they using some very special guidelines about how to act. The members of my company, they use me how to use they help me out to help. They have tell me easiest ways to do my work. They tell me about they gonna tell you I want you to have a piece of paper and I do a list. First you enter this program. Third, second you use that platform. And second you introduce how to I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna do it, who's going who you have to to deliver this package to specific person. So it was very slow process, but hopefully with the act, with the acting simulations, some easy papers and some easy information, some explanations, some more detailed, not too much detail, more specific, more basic. They have helped me to do my work well.
That's great. That's really encouraging that you get such good support at work. And you mentioned there some key things that your work are doing to make sure that you are included. But what do you think some of the key things are that an organisation can do to make sure that people with an intellectual disability, self-advocates, can be part of advocacy work or programme work or making decisions? What are the key things you think an organisation can do?
The first thing that organizations can do is first listen especially to people with people with intellectual disabilities and several other disabilities, they need and the support they want to express. If they want, they always want a special medium to express what they want to do, they want to feel, to express what they want, what they feel, what they need, what scares them, what encourages them, what excites them, and they need, especially that's a special essential listening. Secondly is give the very special the support that the support person is, so they can have a really good relationship. They can break the ice activities a little bit. They know get each other to talk a very special time to get in one another each other's well to understand what they want, so they can have a very close formula relationship in campaigns in also the training the support very well, and also had and most importantly the information. If they want to have very special material, they have to use images, colors, not so explosive colors, but the adequate ones, easy to read texts, images, pictures, videos. They have some very special samples. They use a very special like guidelines, books, playbooks, so how to do the work, to understand the CRPD, to understand local laws, the legal capacity laws, in order to understand very well in very specially parts well.
That's great. So the key things you say, Louise, are listening to people, giving people good support, and making sure that the person who is supporting them is someone that they get on well with, and that they know well, and providing information in a way that's accessible.
Let's not forget the parent. Let's not forget to have in mind the family mind, the parents, the brothers, the sisters, their friends, the neighbors, the special the medical staff, and also their teaching staff, so they can help them. They're not sick, they're not a problem, they're not a burden. They are really good in pretending how to talk to them, how to engage them, how to support them, how to encourage them, how to guide them in this process.
That's great. Thank you so much, Louise.
So the guidelines can be also useful for the families as well. And
absolutely. So including families, you think is another key part.
Well,
Finally, Louise, why do you think that these guidelines that we're working on will be useful? Why do you think the guidelines will be useful?
It's important that because it will allow the people with intellectual disability to express their ideas. They will allow the voice be heard. They allow their point of view has really have taken in mind their point of views. They have they share their life experience. They share their allow experience through, I don't know, like, for let's put an example for like PowerPoint presentations, special statements, little tales, short stories to show their life stories. It will allow them to speak of their minds. It will allow them to show that they want to change in their community, what they need to support everything they want to do, what can do, what they can do for help, and so many things that allows us to break the ice and also to let them know who we are. It allows us to know who we are, what we want, what we need, what can we do for the society, and what can we what the patients, what can we do, and allows us that we are so valuable for this world and valuable for our respective cities and communities.
Thanks, Louise. I think you've really summed up there why we're working on this and why it's so important, so that people can have their voices heard and their points of view understood. We're next going to watch a video from another person with an intellectual disability who's going to share why participation and inclusion is important to him. This is a young man called Sid, and he's 12. He lives in Portland, Oregon, and he's a person who has Down syndrome and autism.
At the same time.
Sid is non-speaking and has learned to communicate by using a letterboard, by pointing at a letterboard. Sid is a very passionate poet and has published his first essay in a book called Leaders Around Me this year. Sid works with an organisation called Communication First, which supports people who are non-speaking or who might communicate in different ways to participate and be included. So let's just watch this video from Sid.
Perfect atmospheres produce inclusion. Lost in my ship of autism over seas of extreme reluctance, I have never been included meaningfully.
Del WhatsApp sí se envió acá. Pero entonces, no, si yo lo abro así como usted estaba haciendo, lo abre para llenarlo. ¿Cuál es el correo de Carlos? Ah, pues sí. Pues sí. ¿Usted lo tiene? Carlitos, hágame un favor, si quiere envíeme su número de celular y yo le lleno ese reporte de condición de salud acá. Pero que diga cuánta temperatura. Por WhatsApp es como pero que diga cuánta temperatura tiene. Pero la temperatura que cuánto le ponemos o cuánto le marcamos.
As you can see there, a very powerful video from Sid about the importance of inclusion and participation. I'm going to hand over to Nathan now to explain a bit more about how we're doing this work.
Thanks, Ailish.
So things are getting really exciting because we're all prepping to come out of isolation, hopefully, in the coming weeks. All the restrictions are getting lifted a bit. We realise that we need to get Oma ready as well for going out of the house. She's pretty much been housebound for 3 months, coming up to 3 months now. Yeah, 2.5 months.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was trying to figure out where that was coming from.
Okay, so where was I? So thanks, Ailish, and thanks, Louise, for that summary of what the guidelines are and why they're important. I think that really summarised it well, and that video is a really good example of what happens when someone isn't included. And I think it made me quite emotional watching it, and it's quite a sad thing when someone really isn't included at all. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we're going to do the work and how the guidelines are going to be produced. So Inclusion International and Down Syndrome International, we have members all over the world. We have, between us and between our networks, we have the international experience, knowledge and legitimacy to create these guidelines. And we have members all around the world who are doing good work on this already. So there's a lot of good practice out there on inclusion. So we'll work with our members and with stakeholders to do the work and to get things done. Have the next slide, please. So the work is going to be led by a reference group, and this group will be made up of our members from around the world and stakeholders who are experts on accessibility and inclusion. So most of this group are experts with an intellectual disability. So they're people who know firsthand how inclusion should work and know what works for them. And a lot of them are leaders in their organizations and in their countries. And so, yeah, they're the most important people to have in the group. And this reference group is going to give us advice on how we plan to do this work, and to check and make sure that the work is happening in the right way. So in terms of what will be included in the guidelines, we think the main topics that the guidelines will cover are accessible information, communication, so how organisations communicate with people with intellectual disabilities and how they share information and that kind of thing. Supporting people to participate. So Lewis talked about good support being crucial for when he has been included. So that's going to be another key area. And then we also think it will be covering how to run inclusive meetings, workshops or conferences. So the actual practical situations where inclusion happens. We will be collecting information about being included and taking part. So this will be done through a survey and consultations. So I noticed in the chat someone mentioned, I think Tavrik mentioned that they would like to be involved in producing the guidelines. So we would really like to hear from you, and this consultation will be reaching out to our members through a survey and through consultations, and we want to hear from everyone that wants to take part and has something to contribute about how inclusion works and what they think should be in the guidelines. So next we've got another video, and this is a really good example of good practice around inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities, and it's from SBSD, which is the Peru Society for Down Syndrome. So this SBSD produced an accessible version of the Sustainable Development Goals, but it was their group of self-advocates that produced the document. So they were involved very heavily and led the process, involved all the way through. So yeah, we'll watch the video from them.
importancia de tener información para que nadie se quede atrás. Desde la Sociedad Peruana de Síndrome de Down, un grupo de autogestores asumimos la tarea de convertir los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible a un lenguaje que fuera sencillo de entender. Nosotros ya veníamos trabajando con la Convención sobre los derechos de las personas con discapacidad y conocíamos nuestros derechos, pero no sabíamos nada de los ODS. Creo que ha sido importante traducir los ODS a un formato accesible para que sea fácil de entender para todos. Si se trata de escoger entre la Convención sobre los derechos de las personas con discapacidad y los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, creo que es más importante trabajar con los ODS porque es para todos. Tienen una fecha para alcanzarlos. Los ODS se tienen que cumplir para el 2030 y nos hablan de cuidar el medio ambiente, que no se contamine el planeta y se no destruya la naturaleza. También nos hablan de cómo mejorar la economía para todos, que haya menos desigualdades. Y finalmente nos hablan sobre los derechos a la educación, a la salud, al trabajo decente, a la igualdad de género. No es solamente para las personas con discapacidad, sino es para todos. Como dice su lema, para que nadie se quede atrás. Por eso es importante que todos podamos tener la información de los ODS. Ahora les voy a contar cómo participé en este proyecto. 2 personas vinieron de la SPCD, un dibujante y una fotógrafa. Nos apoyaron con imágenes para entender primero de qué se trata cada objetivo. Después nosotros trajimos nuestras propias imágenes y construimos los textos. Los leíamos para ver si las palabras les pondrían entender todos. Era importante que todos nosotros entendiéramos de qué se trata. Un ejercicio importante que hicimos fue identificar qué artículo de la Convención era compatible con los ODS. Hicimos una tabla en la pizarra y la incluimos en el material. A mí, por ejemplo, me interesa trabajar sobre el derecho a tener una educación de calidad. En la Convención es el artículo 24 y en los ODS el número 4. Habla sobre la buena educación que deben lograr todas las personas. Cada uno de nosotros, los autogestores de la SPCD, escogimos un derecho de la Convención y lo relacionamos con los ODS. Yo creo que es importante incluir a las personas con discapacidad intelectual para hacer materiales de fácil comprensión, porque nosotros sabemos lo que necesitamos, cuál puede ser la manera sencilla de explicar algo. A veces otras personas crean material que ellos creen que vamos a entender y que no los entendemos. En cambio, cuando nosotros participamos, podemos sugerir algo que todos vamos a entender. Por eso es importante que nos hablen despacio, nos expliquen cuando no entendemos, que respeten nuestros tiempos, que valoren lo que hacemos, porque el mundo somos todos. No podemos ayudar entre todos. Debemos ser tolerantes y valorar lo que cada uno hace de acuerdo a su capacidad. Trabajar juntos por un mundo mejor. Gracias.
These are SPSD's details, and we can share the link to the document that that Jaime talks about. This next video is from Patricia, who supports the self-advocacy group at SPSD, and it explains a little bit more detail about how the document was produced. You can see there what a great example that is of people being included in producing information, but also about the support and time and how long it takes to produce something that's really inclusive and accessible for people. So now I think we've got some time for any questions. I haven't been looking at the chat box. Nathan or Rachel, has there been many questions?
There was a question from Tavrik about where Louise works. I don't know, Louise, did you want to tell a bit about where you work?
Sure. Yes. Oh, sure. Yes, of course. Actually, right now I'm working for I'm working as an administration office assistant at the ABC RPCEP Custom Agency and Agencia de Aduanas ABC RPCEP. I serve as an internal administrative assistant. I help with the internal delivery. I help with the files department, with the art, with the files, with filling files, translating documents, and also help to how to work with the material, especially with the documental files, transportation, and documents about several other issues, several other important papers from external clients like Samsung and Siemens.
Thanks, Louise. I hope that's answered Tavrik's question. I can see Tavrik's asked another question about getting a copy of the SDG book, and yeah, I can share a link to that in English. The original version was published in Spanish, but they translated into English when we went to the UN with Luis Gabriel and Jaime last year for us. So it's in both languages, and yeah, we can share it.
So there's another question that's from Jadine saying that we had mentioned that Tavrik is interested in participating. What is the best way to let others know about this opportunity for self-advocates? So the one way is you can follow us on Twitter or on Facebook or other social media. So we'll have our Twitter handles at the end of the presentation. And we also have a page on our website, which we can share as well, with more details about the guidelines. And then going forward, the survey we'll be posting a lot about it on our websites and on social media in the next couple of months, and the consultation. So yeah, that's probably the best way, and just keep watching our social media pages, and if you can share the link on our website with the people who might be interested, then that would be great. I'll find the page now and I can paste the link for you.
Yeah, I was going to say, if there's any materials that you'd like me to send out afterwards as well, I'm happy to do so. We could do that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Let me see. So I have a few minutes for questions. I wanted to thank you all for joining us today. Well, if we have no more questions, yeah, again, Ailish, Nathan, and Luis, I wanted to thank you for joining us. Fantastic presentation. And for our attendees, we have, yep, I'll be sending out any information that you guys need. Please feel free to ask questions, and I'll pass them along if you're interested in learning about some of these additional opportunities. And perfect end to the summit. Thank you again, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you thank you for this incredible honor. Thank you so much for joining us in this very interesting session about inclusive guidelines and participation. And thank you so much for including us. It's such a wonderful honor to be here with all of you guys. Muchas gracias desde Colombia.
Thank you. So happy to have you.
If you had any questions, if you had any doubts, if you want to work more about the work about Empower Us, about the work we do in inclusion and inclusion, if you want to know more about the work we do in inclusion and Down Syndrome International and all the listen, include, respect, participate guidelines. If you want to more about it, you can check it out in our respective websites in inclusioninternational.org and Down Syndrome International.org, and you can follow us on Twitter. And you can follow us, which are in our Twitter accounts, which you are seeing right here, right now. You can follow us on Twitter, please, and you can know more about it. And thank you so much for joining us so much. And for those who couldn't get in this meeting, we are recording so they can share it with all of you right soon. So thank you so much for joining us.
Great.
Thanks,
Perfect
Louise.
ending. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.